I'd like to start back in the beginning on how the Bengrys came to Santa Paula. My father was chief design engineer on the Bokra Dam in India, in New Delhi, India. And my parents went to India. I was only 13 months old, my brother 4 years older than I. And so they went to India for 2 years on this remote project, and we were just looking through some of the pictures here, and we have photos of Earl at the dam site with these turbaned workers. And then our family was scheduled to take another project on in upstate New York, and at that time a very renowned engineer by the name of Julian Hines flew to New York to intercept him. Somehow Dad's name came to his attention, and he said, before you sign with this project that you're headed for, I'd like you to think about coming to this little town of Santa Paula. It's a beautiful place and a nice place to raise a family. And my sister was on the way at that time. So he said, he and my mom talked about it and said, yes, that would be fine. They'd come and have a look. Well, the rest is history, because what's not to love about this valley? He had done his master's thesis on pre-stressed concrete, and he had learned some leading techniques there, and that was valuable information for the creation of the dam and the spillway. And later, he was quite involved with the outlet project.
The extension of the outlet works.
The extension of the outlet works, and I remember that was quite a feat of engineering, getting this big pipe to stand upright. And I remember as a child, or I don't think we were here at the time. I think we were either in Europe or I was at school. But my sister talks about the day that they actually turned the pipe upright, and everybody was safe, and it was placed, and they had a little party in a bar in Peru. That was somewhat legendary.
So they capped the pipe on either end, filled it with air, so it was full of air. So they floated it out into position, and then gradually let water into it until it finally filled enough, and then it popped upright. And that transition was not easily controlled. So the fact that it didn't flip over or sink or anything, and it finally stood upright, and then with boats and divers, they could move it into position and then let more water in and set it down. And that's how they didn't have a barge with a crane or anything. They floated it into place and just set it down.
My father was an engineer for United Water Conservation District in the 50s and forward. And Irv Wild, another engineer at United, always had a 4th of July party for United people. And so we would traditionally go for the 4th of July to their beach house.
My mother's family, the Hardisons, also had a beach house at the beach right next door. So we were probably there at the same time, may have played together and done things when they were out there, so yeah.
The tradition of good minds, good brains, good forward thinking has long been a characteristic of United Water.
United grew out of another effort before that, but still was crafted in the early 50s, so it's 60, nearly 70 years old as an organization. And yet, what it does today is still as critical and as appropriate as it was when it was created. I mean, in a way, it's amazing that an organization and the structure and the concept of the organization is just as valid today as it was when our forefathers created it. It's pretty impressive, and it's in today's environment. It's even more impressive, and makes it more vital. So it's more important. I mean, it's thanks to our grandfathers and great-grandfathers that we have this very useful organization. And then the perfect example is the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. United's been doing that, and its predecessors for 90 years here already. I mean, there are places in California where they've been pumping out of the groundwater basin, and nobody's ever even measured the water or measured the basins. Here we've been doing it, and we've been collecting money to replenish the groundwater basin. So we're 50 years ahead of what's happening in the rest of the country. And it's because our grandfathers and great-grandfathers had that vision. And it's because good people all those years have served on the board and have worked for United Water, and stayed true to the mission. So in that way, it's pretty impressive, and it's humbling. The original concept of in creating United was to enhance the spreading grounds in Satakoy and to build dams on Piru Creek and the Sespe Creek to hold water during storms, and then allow that both of those, release them down the river to recharge the basins in the river, and to reach the spreading grounds at Satakoy to recharge the basins under the Oxnard Plain. So the original big master plan was 2 dams.
There was the proposed Sespe Creek project, and so in the process of that there was some resistance from Audubon Society because of the sanctuary for the condors, and there was a lot of attention brought by environmentalists of those days, and the project actually failed, and the project failed by I think it was something around somewhere between 40 and 70 votes.
It went to a public vote.
Went to a public vote, that's correct.
Approval by the public.
Yeah, and so coincidentally that was about the same number of condors that had been tracked and monitored in the Sespe wilderness, and my father always wanted to know who let those birds vote.
If United Water wasn't in existence today, hadn't been in existence for the last 90 years, this valley and the Oxnard Plain would look a lot different than they do today. The question is, how would Oxnard and Port Hueneme be getting their water? They'd be getting it, I guess, through the State Water Project when it was available, if it was available, and paying the price. In terms of farming, I mean, I don't know. I think farming on the Oxnard Plain would be a lot different because there wouldn't be enough water to grow vegetables. It's been such an integral part. I mean, you unwind it, and how much less water would there be available? And how much more in trouble would all the aquifers be? And how much worse would the seawater intrusion be? I mean, I don't know. We're just so lucky to have it.